You think you know what we're going to talk about.
But unfortunately, I fell down a damn rabbit hole and I've not gotten out yet.
Knife bros.
I literally Googled Sebastian Stan hands. But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
Well, yeah, because like usually in astrology, they would partner up air signs with fire signs.
All right, you can huggle.
Time travel stories and
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
Well, we should make it a topic. Unfortunately, I didn't take German in school. I took Spanish and I don't remember any of it.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Mary. Welcome back to Three Fates Decide podcast. I'm here with my two co-hosts, Sam and Liz. Say hi, ladies.
hello. Hi.
We are on episode 14, and today we are going to be talking on a pretty serious topic of mental health. And to kind of follow last week's topic, we're also going to be doing a little bit more about the social media aspect and how it affects mental health, especially in young adults, teenagers. Who wants to start?
Yeah, so I had, I guess, been the one to kind of suggest this personal topic. It's become kind of near and dear to my heart because I've been suffering with, anxiety, depression, and things like that. And I think a lot of people have, especially during COVID. Mental health has become a forefront in a lot of ways. With quarantine and things like that, a lot of people were very anxious or fell into depression and, had to come up with ways to deal with it if they couldn't see a therapist or anything like that. So, like, for instance, for me, I started writing and kind of having a more artistic outlook to get a lot of my stress, anxiety, anger, whatever emotion I was feeling at the time out. And it has helped, but I did recently start going back to therapy. I actually do feel a lot better, when I kind of get it off my chest and things like that. So it has definitely helped. So I do recommend if you are, suffering with, depression, anxiety, anger, just feelings that you feel like you can't talk to anybody about, definitely if you have the capability, go and talk to somebody. And it's nice to kind of get a outsider's perspective, and sometimes, someone who doesn't necessarily just have an opinion but has ways to help you overcome your struggles. So, and, more recently with mental health, it's become kind of the forefront again, especially surrounding the Olympics because of, Simone Biles and what she was kind of going through while she was in Tokyo and things like that. So, we can talk about that a little bit today, also. But yeah, no, I'm kind of glad that mental health has become so important to people, and has become more of a talked about subject. I think, you know, before it was kind of like a taboo. No one wanted to discuss mental health. Obviously, there's all different types of things. When it comes to mental health, it's a very broad spectrum, but it's so important in life to make sure you have, good mental health, to have a, good, happy life. So,
Yes, I agree. I've suffered with social anxiety for a very long time. I was on medication for a while and in therapy for a while. Unfortunately for me, I found the therapy and the medication did not help. All the medication did was just numb every feeling I ever had. So I no longer felt happiness. I no longer felt sadness. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel anything. And during this time, my grandfather passed away, and I did not grieve. I had no tears. I had no feelings. It was just, he was gone. Um, So for me, I found for me what worked better was to find my, I guess, quote unquote people, and I found them online. Like I found you and Liz, Sam, and a few others that I've found over the years that have become more of my sounding board when I am feeling certain ways. Because for me, therapy did not work, or I didn't feel therapy worked well for me. That's not to say it doesn't work for other people. That's just my experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very happy to see that the stigma surrounding mental illness and having a mental illness diagnosis or being in therapy is being destigmatized now. It's you're no longer being considered quote unquote crazy because you can't just shake it off and move on. Some people can, others cannot. And
Right.
I love the fact that I wish they had it back. It might have helped maybe more for me back in the back when I was younger if they'd had the more of an online mental health therapy sessions like they do now.
That's actually what I use.
Yeah,
I'm using Better Health.
yeah, which is amazing because I mean that puts you in touch with, so you don't necessarily have to leave the house to get a therapy session in, or you can call from wherever you are and get a therapy session in, which is great for people. And other people like that, and other people need that face-to-face interaction with a therapist. I personally would be more like you, Sam. I would prefer if they'd had it back then to have used a system like that, because I think it would have helped me more, because I find I can open up more online in an almost anonymous role than I can when I'm face to face with somebody, because I still feel like that person is judging me. Where online, it's more anonymous, so I don't feel that judgment.
Yeah. I've done both. I've done the face to face, and I've done, obviously, I'm currently doing the online. The reason why I went to online now is because when you do these online ones, you don't have to go through insurance. You kind
Mhm,
of pay like a subscription for the app.
mhm.
And my health insurance right now, I think I only get like 5 visits for mental health, which how do
Ooh,
you know if that's going to be good enough or not? So that's why I was like, you know what, let me
right.
just do the online thing, see how that goes. I am enjoying it so far. It is nice that I can like lay on my bed and talk to the therapist as opposed to going to the office, sitting on a couch or in a chair and not feeling 100% comfortable. So I do get that.
Out of the three of us, I am the only one who's never gone to see a therapist or talk to one. I mean, I don't know. I've just never quite felt like I was ever in like a particular situation or anything where I felt like I needed to talk to a complete out, like a complete, stranger more or less about whatever issue I have at any particular time. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm more like a lot of people who have just never seen a therapist or felt the need to see one, at least, you know, up to this point. So I have to say that this particular topic, I'm gonna have like a bit of I'm more like gonna be in the background a little bit on this one just because like I don't really have firsthand like anecdotes or anything
Hmm.
about me. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's
No,
valid.
no worries. Listen,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you've never had or you've never felt like you needed it. It's actually kind of funny because like, and I think I've mentioned this in a possibly another episode before. My dad passed away when I was 16, unexpectedly. And
Mhm.
it was kind of like ever since then, like I felt like I needed it just to kind of get that my chest. But my mom never believed in it. So it wasn't until I was an adult and I had my own insurance that I really got a chance to go. And at that point, I was dealing with a lot with my grandma who had Alzheimer's, who was living with us, and it was just a lot of stress with that and stuff like that. So, but I mean, like it's. I think it depends on with therapy. I think it depends on your therapist. Number one, because at the
Definitely.
time when I did the face to face, I thought she was great. Now seeing like this therapist, I kind of realized that she didn't necessarily like help me. I kind of would sit there and talk for 45 minutes and then she'll be like, "All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks." And that was, I mean, yeah, I got a lot off my chest, which was great, but I didn't feel better because I didn't know how to deal with like the emotions that I was feeling at the time, where now this
Mhm.
therapist gives me a lot of like exercises to help me and, is actually trying to help me deal with a lot of the feelings that I have, which is good. But, um, I think there's a lot of people, and, you know, again, with the fact that the world has changed where it's okay to talk about mental health, I think has helped a lot of people um, realize that they can go and talk to somebody, or that they may have, I don't want to say like an issue, but they have something that they want to go talk to the doctor about or whatever. And like I said,
Mhm.
mental health is such a broad spectrum, because it's more than just like bipolar or depression or whatever. Sometimes it's just you need to de-stress and you don't know how to de-stress, and like stress is such a huge thing in mental health that if you don't know how, or you have a lot of anger, or you have just some type of emotion that you don't know how to let it out, that affects you mentally so badly that now that it's talked about so openly, people realize I can go and get help, for even though I'm not diagnosed with depression or with bipolar or whatever. So it's nice to see.
Definitely, definitely. I think that was probably my one of the reasons why I felt, especially face-to-face therapy did not help me, is because it was like you said, just the okay, you talk and then that's it. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. There's nothing else.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I and I will never forget the therapist that I saw suggested 2 things to my parents for me, because I was still a teenager when I first went. First off, they said to get rid of the internet, and the second was to put me in a private school. That was supposed to solve my social anxiety.
Okay. What was a
Yeah, I
private
was
school
like,
gonna do?
I other
I guess
than
less kids.
less kids, but the private school they wanted to put me in was an exclusive private school,
Oh, so
and
rich kids.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not rich by any stretch of the means or the imagination, and back then even less so. I'm like, "Okay, you're gonna put me in an all-girls school, all-girls boarding school,
Yeah.
private boarding school, and then you're going to take away the only access I have to the outside world besides my podunk little town that I live in, that I still live in, unfortunately."
Right.
But I'm like, "Yeah, no, because that was part of the problem is you're that's why I had the social anxiety to begin with, is because 1, I live in a podunk little town where everybody knows everybody, and I was the little fat kid that they all picked on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, kids stink. That's why, like, it's so funny. Like, we're gonna get into like the internet, like cyberbullying and stuff like that. But like,
Oh, yeah.
kids suck.
They do. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love my daughter, she's only 4, so she's not there yet, but some children are just little buttholes.
Yeah, they're mean. They are so mean. Like I was bullied. I was
Yeah.
bullied so badly
Oh
in
yeah.
5th grade that it emotionally like ruined me until I was an adult. I think I
Mm-hmm.
just got over it. Like like it was relentless. Like every day
Yeah.
they found something new to pick on me about,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
to the point that like teachers after wanted like would ask my mom like why I was so emotional. My mom had to tell them like I was literally like the class pincushion that kids
Oh,
would
I was
just
a
like
punching bag.
attack. Yeah.
I was no the literal punching bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean
I was thrown in front of a truck. It wasn't moving, but they
the
wanted it
intent was
to.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean I remember having braces, which another thing that kids like to pick on you for. I mean, and getting punched in the mouth and my braces cutting the inside of my lip of my mouth and just blood just I was just bleeding because of it. I remember that. And I'm just like, kids are buttholes. They're just
Yeah.
horrible. And
Yeah.
I'm so trying to raise my daughter to keep her sweet nature, but also be able to stand up for herself.
Mhm.
And I think I mentioned this in another podcast. I said, my daughter better never throw the first punch, but she damn well better throw the last, is how I want her to.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want her to be able to use her words. But if it doesn't stop and they physically touch her, then she better stop it. And if
Right,
she needs,
defend yourself. Yeah.
exactly, and if she needs to get physical to do it, then I will defend that child to my dying breath that she was in the right to defend herself.
Mhm.
It's like you see those pictures of the lion cub standing and the mama right behind him. That's going to be me with my daughter. She's going to know how to she's going to know how to use her words effectively first off. Second, she's going to try to do it the right way by getting an adult and trying to get it taken care of that way. But if it doesn't stop and they physically lay their hands on her, then she's going to have my permission, whether she has anybody else's, she will have my permission to do what she needs to do to get them to stop.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
I
short of like obviously criminal
mean,
things,
of
okay?
course.
Say, it's like stopping short of actually really physically hurting somebody to that point of a criminal act. I should clarify.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But at least like when we were younger, there was like the internet. I mean, as teenagers it was there, but like it was still kind of like new.
Right.
Um,
So we didn't have the cyberbullying that they do now.
right. And that's like, kind of segueing into like the next thing is like the online uh men- uh, how mental health is being affected by the internet. Not
Yes.
just cyberbullying, but also
Social media.
influencers and things like that. There's so many things that,
Mhm.
the internet has, I don't want to say control, but like affects,
Yeah,
especially with young kids and teenagers. And you know what? Hell, even adults. I mean,
it does.
it's crazy between cyberbullying and we talked about this last week with the social media and fandoms and the toxicity and the keyboard warriors, how when you are anonymous on the keyboard you kind of feel like you can say whatever you want and just kind of go
Mhm.
for it, and unfortunately there's a lot of kids who have committed suicide as a result of cyberbullying,
Yeah,
or being told to commit suicide, and like that's like
yeah.
it's gross. And then at the same time you have these influencers who all they care about is getting followers and stuff like that, and they post these pictures of themselves that are so photoshopped that make them look so skinny and make that like it makes these kids think that if you're anything less than that you're wrong or you're bad or whatever.
You're
So it's like
ugly.
now,
You're
yeah,
ugly at that point. It's an unattainable beauty standard that not just influencers, but the beauty industry in its pretty much its entirety has perpetuated is that it started back in the 60s with girls like Twiggy, the famous model Twiggy, how
Mhm.
she was so thin and she was like that was like the model standard is you had to look like her back in this is back in the 60s before
Yeah.
internet was even a thing. This was like in magazines and runway shows and things like that. And then it's just gotten worse every decade. And now it has really gotten really, really bad because they've got so many filters and Photoshop and all these women and men, but mostly women. I have to say the unfortunately the quote unquote fair sex here has really taken it too far. Not saying the men don't have their issues, they do, but
Yeah.
seeing especially there's just you see these things and I talked about it yesterday or last week about the YouTuber that has pretty much
Mhm.
confirmed an eating disorder. She has an ED. She has actually come out and stated that she's had a relapse of it, and that's why she looks as thin as she does right now. But she's so many people think that she looks good and that she needs to lose more weight, and
Yeah.
it's just insane to me.
It's from
All right.
there's a difference between like promoting health, like in terms of, obviously obesity is an issue, especially in the US. And,
It is.
like I'm overweight and I know
I am
that,
too.
you
Right
know,
there with you.
and okay, yes, you want to promote, you know, healthy eating, exercise, and whatever. 100% I will applaud that because that is something that kids especially need to know because,
Mhm.
don't sit there on your phones or on your computers or in front of your game systems or whatever. Like, go outside and play. But at the same time, like, when, like, there's people that don't promote that. They just promote, like, well, if you are heavy, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. Like, yes, there are a lot of plus size models now, which is great because you should celebrate every body type in the
Mhm.
world. Not everyone is skinny. Not everyone's meant to
Right.
be skinny. Like, yeah,
Right.
I work out now. I eat healthy, I'm losing weight, but you know what? I am broad. I have broad shoulders, a broad back. Like, I'm never going to be a skinny model type.
Right.
And I know that as long as I'm
Mhm.
healthy, that's all that matters. And that's really all that should matter. There's some people that can't get down to that quote unquote model body, but you have these people who are in the public eye for however it is that literally
Mhm.
will change themselves and sometimes badly where you can actually tell that they change themselves to make themselves look skinnier or, whatever. And it's
Yeah.
wrong because you're sending the wrong message. Instead of showing
Right.
that everyone is beautiful in their own way, you're sending, well, I if you're not this skinny, then, it's not a good picture. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen pictures of women on Instagram and then pictures in magazines where they haven't been photoshopped to death like they do on it like they do to themselves on Instagram. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you actually look better in the unphotoshopped photo because that's a realistic beauty standard, a realistic body type, as compared to this quote unquote perfect beauty standard that nobody is ever going to be able to attain, except
Mm-hmm.
for a very small, maybe a handful of people. But that's only because they have access to probably the best plastic surgeons, the best dietitians, the best personal trainers, the best of everything. And even then, they're probably never going to attain that true beauty standard that they want you that they say that if you don't look like this, then you're just considered ugly and you might as well just stop.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me. Because I know I'm overweight. I admit I'm overweight.
Mhm.
I have been since I hit puberty. Before that,
Yep.
I was skinny. I was tiny. I was just
Same here. We're like the same person.
yeah, it's like I was just this little itty bitty thing. And then I hit puberty, and unfortunately I grew a very large set of breasts. Unfortunately, I did not grow the ass to go with them. So I'm a little
Same.
top heavy here.
Well, like I said, I have the broad back, thank you to my father, and the
Yeah.
broad shoulders. So it's like I have like that big upper body.
Yeah.
But
So
that's who I am. There's nothing I can do about that.
right. I'm never gonna get down to my quote unquote ideal size of like 120 pounds or 110 pounds for my height. There is no way in hell. No way.
Mm-hmm.
But I do try to watch what I eat. I do admit I don't exercise nearly as much as I should. I
Yeah,
admit that. And I
that's all
eat
of us.
way
So
too
I
many
do.
I eat way too many sweets. That's my downfall is sweets.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Cake,
sweet. Oh, it's not even so much cake, it's just candy in general. Like, especially
chocolate.
well, mine's more like the fruity candies,
Mm.
like jelly beans and,
Hmm.
the Mike and Ike's are some of my absolute favorites. Love Mike and Ike's. Love those things.
Yeah, I am a chocolateaholic,
Yeah, I do like the
and
chocolate too.
I do like cake. I like carbs.
Yes.
I'm a
Well, yeah,
big carb
carbs,
person. But I
yes.
mean, I'm
Mm,
Italian. We like our carbs.
pasta, potatoes.
Pasta, pizza. I'm also Irish, so potatoes. Like
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
the healthy carbs, but I like carbs. But
yeah.
I am doing
Rice,
better. Yes,
love rice. I'm a huge
but
rice.
like
Huge.
what
Mhm.
annoys me is how many of these people that are photoshopping also post pictures of them eating crappy food.
I know. It's like just just show us
So,
the real you. It's
right.
okay.
Like,
You look
eh,
fine.
right, and that's the whole thing that I think needs to start happening is people realizing like we're all different. We all have different body types. And again, yes, not to quote unquote celebrate obesity and like that's what annoys me is how many people say like, oh well, if you are plus size, like you're celebrating obesity. No. You're
Mm-mm.
celebrating the fact that there are some people that are bigger and yeah, maybe they do want to get smaller. Maybe they are going to work on it. But for now, they are who they are. And you can't just ignore them or tell them that they're fat or they're ugly or they're whatever, because that's not going to make the situation better. It's going to make it worse.
Yeah. The thing of it is that people need to understand that because I embrace the fact that I'm overweight doesn't mean that I'm okay with the fact that I'm overweight.
Right.
It means that I no longer hate myself for being as overweight as I am. Yes, this is what my body looks like right now. Do I want to change it? Yes, I do want to change it. Will I change it? Most likely I will. It may take me a very long time to do it. And there may be I may fall off the wagon a lot and I have to get back up on that up on my horse again.
Mm-hmm.
However, that doesn't me saying that we need to have more body inclusivity and a better range of I'm looking at you clothing industry on this one. I am talking to you about this shit because there is no way that I understand yes it does my plus size clothes cost more. That's just a way of life at this point. But I see all these really adorable clothes for like quote unquote normal size. I'm like you just add a little bit to to that dress right there, you can make it plus size.
Mm-hmm.
Why does my plus size clothing have to look like a sack? I
Right.
mean,
It's not flattering at all.
yeah, I mean, okay, I understand that you're not that you say you're inclusive in sizes. Okay, but you just making a potato sack is not flattering, though. It is my thing. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way.
You know, since you brought it up, this kind of reminds me of Christian Siriano. How like when Leslie was like complaining about how she had to do like a red carpet premiere thing and she couldn't find anybody who could dress her because she is not a size zero woman, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
he actually stepped up
Mhm.
and said, you know what? If you need a dress, just send me a message privately and we'll work something out. And he dressed her and she looked great in it. I mean, it looks exactly like a dress that any woman could wear to like a fancy black tie
Mhm.
cocktail party kind of thing. And he's also come out and said that, you know what, if you really want me to dress you, whatever, whichever celebrity you are, and you can't find anything, just send me just DM me and we'll set up an appointment and figure something out, which I 100% totally respect that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Applaud him.
Exactly. That's awesome. And I'm so glad that a high-end designer like that is willing to do that for um, all body types, not just your quote unquote size 0 to size 4, you know?
Hmm.
And so they're saying it's okay if you're not a size 4, or you could be a size 8, 10, 12, 14, whatever size it is.
Oh yeah, and not that like I want to make this like too much about Christian Siriano only, but the
Right.
other cool thing I thought was great was like how he actually designed that tuxedo dress thing for Billy Porter for I think the Met Gala it was for. It was either the Met Gala or for some award show, but I thought that was like great too because it's like now you're not just so now he's not just designing stuff for, you know, different body types, but he's also not focusing too much on like, well, okay, you're a woman and you're wearing a dress, so what? But now he's designed this cool dress tuxedo thing for a gay man who is
Oh, right. I had a brain fart on who you were talking about until you said it was the tuxedo dress. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." He slayed in that. Oh my god, he looked amazing in that dress.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure yeah, and that was Christian Siriano. So it's
Yeah.
like we, on the fashion side, since you brought it up, we
Right.
honestly need more designers who are more innovative in their philosophy on like design, like
Mhm.
Christian, because again, like I was just saying, it's not just about women getting, their different body sizes recognized by a designer, but now we're also talking about like, well, why are we limiting, why are we saying fashion has to be gendered, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, everything we're talking about also applies to men, even though we may speak more towards the women's side of things because we are all women, we are all female, but it also does everything we're saying does apply to men as well. Because men of all sizes deserve to have their body be considered normal or normalized, you know. We may not say it looks great if you're an obese man or you're an obese woman, but we're saying it's okay to embrace that this is your body right now. And it's okay to love yourself the way you are now, no matter what. Because it does really go into the mental health, because men have just as much, if not more, mental health issues than women. They're just not as
Open.
um, open and talked about
Hmm.
like women are, because men have always been told that they need to shut up and get over it.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's
And
plenty of men who deal with body like dysmorphia or
definitely,
image issues. I applaud them if they speak about it though, because yeah,
right,
it's true. They do. They're
right.
taught to kind of like keep your head down, don't talk about it, get over it yourself, like be a man.
Yeah, real men don't talk about their feelings, and that's just not true. So
Yep.
everything we talk about, whether we if we when we say something, we mean both genders, or all genders, I should put it that way. We mean all genders, whether you are male, female, non-binary, doesn't matter. We're talking about you. We are including everybody into this mental health, because
Hmm.
everybody suffers in some way or some form, because everybody has anxiety or stress. Some people can deal with it better than others. And for some people, it doesn't affect them as badly as it does others. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was something like I meant to bring up in the previous episode, but I just never got around to doing it. But it's still, but it fits in this topic is that the other thing is it's not just regular people like us or you listeners out there that have to
mhm,
deal with these struggles, but quite a few celebrities have come out and said that
Hmm.
I have dealt with this problem.
definitely.
Like we kind of mentioned earlier, like Sam brought up before, because of the Olympics, it kind of came up with Simone Biles, and before that, Naomi
Mhm.
Osaka withdrew from, the French Open and I think Wimbledon because she was like, all this press, media scrutiny, it's just too much and I need to get away from all of this for, a few weeks to kind of sort everything out and maybe I'll come back for like the US Open or the Olympics even. So, and you know what? It's great that they brought this up because you know what? The fact that these top athletes are saying that, this all this attention is just getting to me and I need some time to kind of put my head back together a bit, shows that just because you become famous and you're getting $1 million endorsement deals, etc., doesn't mean that you can't escape from the same struggles that everybody deals with. And if anything, there's a case to be made it's actually worse for them because of the fact they are famous people
Mhm.
and you have millions of people paying attention to them. It just
And making comments. Yep.
right, and
Yeah.
it just amplifies it. And another related point that I didn't bring up in the previous episode was how this is not just well, obviously we're all human beings, but this is not just like an American problem. Very tragically, now, this is not to say that it's cyberbullying was completely responsible for all of it. It's more like probably cyberbullying by keyboard warriors who hide behind their computer screens, saying nasty things,
To
just
somebody
probably
who's already prone to depression or anxiety
Right, it
or
just exacerbates a
yeah.
problem, but,
Mhm.
those of you out there who are very familiar with, K-pop and, even some of the K-dramas, um, probably already know what I'm getting into now, but, there were actually some celebrity suicides that happened in recent years, um and like I was saying, it's not specifically cyberbullying caused them to do it, obviously, but it's
Mhm.
just that whatever issues, emotional, mental, what have you, struggles that they were having already was just exacerbated by thousands of random strangers. Basically, saying uh, the kind of negative things that they were already thinking in their heads as
Right.
well as maybe things that they were told within their own industry, over the years. Because especially for some of the K-pop stars, which for those of you who aren't familiar with, a lot of K-pop stars, they start out as teenagers Like, I mean, I have two nieces that are teenagers, and, kids even younger than my two nieces will get, scouted by talent agencies, and they go through up to 3 to 4 years of training by the talent agencies to be better singers, better dancers, better rappers. They may even get classes to teach them how to do interviews properly, or even, acting lessons, because, some idols do get cast in dramas and things as well. But, so you have these young kids thrust into stardom, okay, whether they become big pop star famous, like, BTS or Blackpink as an example, or you kind of fizzle out, as a group that is only around for maybe a couple of years, and then when the contract with the agency is up, it doesn't get renewed because you're just not popular enough. When you're thrust in that situation, whatever negative ideas you may have had in your head because they were already in your head, or people in the industry were telling you this, like, oh, you need to lose some weight, or, have you look kind of tired. Have you thought about like getting work done or whatever? I mean, you get that kind of stuff happening, and then now you become famous. You have thousands of random people on the internet saying the same kind of thing to you. I mean,
Mhm.
it just snowballs to the point where some people just cannot cope with it, and you get these tragic stories.
Yeah.
And you know it's just sad. It's sad when it's a regular person that has this happen to them, and it's terrible when it happens to a celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like I think people forget that celebrities or public figures, I'll kind of open that up a little bit to public figures are human, just like us.
Yeah.
They all, and we talked about this again last week. They're all, you know, the same as us. They all wake up in the morning, they all get dressed the same way we do. Like, you know, the difference is they have money, they're in the public eye, they're whatever. And yes, sometimes they take advantage, sometimes they do stupid things, but same as anyone else. And what's the I think the biggest difference is that because they're in the public eye, they are getting those comments from people about how they look, their actions, you know, anything, their hair, their you know facial expression, how they look in picture. It's like
Yeah.
they just get commented on every single thing, and if they're already dealing with anxiety,
Depressed.
depression, whatever, like
Yeah.
it's gonna snowball even more because, as you said, it's things that they probably think about themselves anyway.
Yeah.
So then not only do you get either people from their agencies or whatever telling them, but you get the public telling them. And it's like, it made me think of like Candace Cameron Bure when she was playing DJ for Full House. Like, she grew up in front of the camera when like that show started. She was like 8 years old. So she literally
And
went
Jodie
through
Sweetin.
puberty
Yeah. And Jodie
on,
Sweetin, who
yeah.
played Stephanie.
And I just remember like they talked a lot about her weight and how like she developed an eating disorder on the
Mhm.
show because she was so worried about not being skinny enough. Like, and people
Yeah.
forget that like they care about that stuff. They may
Yeah.
try and pretend like they don't. They may even say that they don't. But I think at the end of the day, everyone cares at least a smidgen. Maybe not as much as they could, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but they pay attention to what people say, and it can hurt. It can really, really hurt. And like, kind of going back to the Olympics with Simone Biles, like I was floored at how many people made comments on how she's a quitter, she's quitting on her country, quitting on her team. Like, if she's an Olympian, then she should have, better mental health, better that, like, you don't even know what she's going through. Like, do you really think that she flew all the way to Tokyo and was happy about having to sit out for like a week? Because I'm pretty sure she wasn't. But at the end of the day, like, for people who don't know, she developed something called the twisties, which is very common in gymnasts. And pretty much what happens is, if you're when you're twisting in the air, you lose yourself. You have no idea where you are. And that can be very dangerous
Mm-hmm.
because, you're flipping upside down. And if you can't control your body, you can break your neck and die. So she took the initiative instead of either A, bombing her routines or getting hurt, she stepped back. And her team stepped up and they were able to win a medal. And as a result of her stepping down for the other things, her teammates were able to get gold medals or medals in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, her stepping down actually helped her other teammates give them their time to shine. Now, not that that's why she did it, but right away people attack like, "Oh, you're a quitter, you're this, you're that." Why? Like, this girl gets so much pressure. Like I was saying, every time they talked about her on the media, it was she's the goat. She's the, she only has to compete against herself. Every country knows, if Simone Biles there, US is going to get the gold. When Russia saw that Simone pulled, the coach even said, "Okay, now the gold is yours to take," because she knew Simone was out. Like, the coaches for even the USA team said, like, they weren't worried going into the Olympics because they had Simone. Like, that's an issue. Like, you're putting a lot of pressure. She's only like 20 whatever years old. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. Literally, the hope of everything is on her shoulders. And like, she literally had a interview like the night before saying she felt like the world was on her shoulders. So I can't even imagine what was going on in her head.
Yeah, definitely. I know
Like,
we were talking about the to kind of go back to the celebrity route for the depression and suicides. We've had several just in the past, 15 years, several high prominent celebrities take their lives. Heath Ledger, he dealt with he had those all he had dealt with mental health issues. Unfortunately, they got the better of him
yeah,
after his turn as the Joker, which is horribly sad because he was a fantastic actor, and I would have loved to have seen what his career would have done had he
yeah,
been able to get the help that he needed. Robin Williams. I know we don't normally name names, but these celebrities have are pretty people pretty much know what has happened to them. But the one that shocked me the most probably was Robin Williams.
yeah,
I
yeah. Well, actually, he and Robin Williams made a good point, and I know a lot of other comedians have come out about that. A lot of comedians suffer from depression,
hmm
and the way that they deal with that depression is through their jokes.
yeah.
It it's sad. It really is because like even like Steve Martin like came out and was like he suffers with
Yeah.
like depression and stuff like that. Yeah, Robin Williams definitely floored me with that. And just for anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't know, that's he did unfortunately commit suicide, but it wasn't because of depression. He was actually diagnosed with a form, I think it was of like a form of dementia, and he was so scared of losing himself that that's what he decided to go that route, which is extremely sad. So I mean, I guess maybe depression did play a role, but it wasn't like that.
It wasn't
He had
the
right,
main
he had
contributor to
fallen ill and he didn't want to go out like that.
yeah. But at the same time, I think if he hadn't had the depression and the mental illness, he might have been able to not necessarily suffer through it, but he might have been able to make a better choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think because he grew up in the era of where men didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Men don't have feelings. They don't, they don't talk about the mental health and all that, which is still going on to this day, unfortunately. It's getting better. It is getting better, but unfortunately for men, mental health still seems like it's stigmatized, and needing to talk to somebody is like stigmatized for men more so than for women.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's why, like, I applaud the men who do actually
Come forward.
talk about it and come forward.
Yeah.
Because, I know that that's not an easy thing because of how they've, been taught or whatever. But, it's good that now, there's men and actually a lot of public figured men that are very open about it, and hopefully that'll help other men to become more open with it. Just a little fact, Robin Williams' anniversary is coming up on Wednesday. He passed away on the 11th, and I only know that because that's my sister's birthday. But yeah. So when you mentioned him, I was like, oh wow, it's kind of weird. His anniversary is coming up, but
Yeah. But it's just his probably floored me and shocked me more than I think than Heath Ledger, even though I was still shocked when I heard about Heath Ledger's passing, because I was just like but he just couldn't get, because he isolated himself for a month in a hotel room to get into the role of the Joker, to get into the head of the Joker, and unfortunately was not able to come back out from that dark place that he went to, I guess. So I don't know, and I don't know that it necessarily was the lack of the fact that he couldn't afford to go to a therapist. I don't really think he realized how deep and dark he had actually got with the role and how much it was still affecting him.
yeah, no, that was sad. Yeah, yeah, and I just remember Jack Nicholson made a comment about it after he passed away. I don't know if you remember that. Um,
I don't. I remember something, but I don't remember what the actual
um,
comment was.
I don't know like the exact comment, but it was kind of like how like that character does bring out like a dark side, and like
Yeah.
it's I think even he and Jack Nicholson I think is very out there anyway, but even I guess he had trouble after, and like he played that role totally different than Heath did.
Oh
Heath
yeah.
was the darkest version I think of Joker that we've seen,
Yes.
but he got so involved like deep into that role, it was hard for him to come out of it.
Yeah.
And
And Jack Nicholson has played
yeah.
some very sketchy characters,
Yeah,
I
I'm
could
like
say.
trying to think of the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, don't get me wrong. I love Jack Nicholson. I'm a huge fan of his work. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is probably one of my favorites, and which is funny because he was in a mental institution for the entire movie. Yeah.
Ended with a lobotomy.
Yeah, that was wow. At the end of that one, yeah. But he has
Spoiler
played,
alert.
yeah, spoiler alert if you've never seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. 2 words, Nurse Ratched.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Uh, and even in God, what is it? Oh, what was it? Not this. I don't think it was a stand.
The
Oh,
Shining.
The
I was gonna
Shining.
say The
That was it. The
Shining.
Shining. I knew it was a Steve. It was a Stephen King. I knew that. I mean, that role. That was a pretty dark role. I mean, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still can't watch that movie in the
You
dark.
know, I do applaud actors who play these darker roles. Um, because it can't be easy to go in and out of that mentality,
Right.
and them to be able to come out of it and you know move on with their lives, so to speak, is impressive. And not that unfortunately for Heath he wasn't able to, but it just shows how much these actors actually put in to their roles. They're not just
Mhm.
reading lines off of a page in front of a camera. You know what I mean? Like they're
No,
putting their themselves into such dark places that sometimes
yeah,
it really is just hard for them to get out.
they can't. They don't. They can't separate the fantasy from the reality
Yeah.
in a way. And I mean, that's in a way is kind of a good thing because it makes their acting that much more believable in the role. Because
Hmm.
he did a phenomenal job as the Joker.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
After Jack Nicholson, he's probably my favorite Joker. You know,
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I 100%
yeah.
agree with you.
I mean, Jack Nicholson for me is always like number one. That's just he's Jack Nicholson, but
Yeah.
he is right there. And but so it made his turn as the Joker that much more believable for me,
Hmm.
and it just was incredibly sad, and I felt horrible for his family and his friends when that he wasn't able to separate himself from the role. It's just like the role became who he was too, and that's just so sad. And I think I don't know if therapy would have helped, and I think it might have, and it makes me wonder if he'd actually was going to therapy or not.
Yeah,
I
because I
don't
know
know.
he was trying to work on it because he was unfortunately taking the medication. Though I think the medication was more to try and help him sleep more than
Mhm.
anything. But yeah, no, I don't know if he had actually like tried anything to fix it. At
Yeah.
least not yet. But
Yeah, and then
yeah.
but unfortunately, that's the thing with the medications too. A lot of times, that's why they actually have a suicide risk warning on a lot of antidepressants
Mhm.
because it makes you feel just good enough to actually do it, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not saying that you shouldn't take the medication if the medication helps, definitely take it. I'm all for whatever helps the individual person. Some people can do it without medication, others need the medication, and that's perfectly fine. But that is one of the side effects, and one of the things you have to watch out for is sometimes can cause it can cause somebody that was so depressed that they're too depressed to do it, makes them feel just good enough to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is sad.
And that's why be vigilant in talking to a doctor and
Definitely.
letting them know if you feel that type of way,
Hmm.
um so that they can regulate, because it can take time to find the right medicine, the right dosage, and things like that. So but yeah, no, I mean, you know, besides, celebrities and, obviously, people who are dealing with everyday struggles, um, family life, a lot of things coming out, especially um, a lot of like the LGBTQ plus um,
Community.
community, unfortunately, has a lot of suicides and things like that because I think a lot of it is people feel like they're alone in how they feel,
Mhm.
or, you know, they're scared, especially in that community, to come out, or they were told that they couldn't be who they are. And so, if anyone who is listening, you know, not just the LGBTQ plus, but anyone in general who, feels like they're alone, feels that they, you know, don't know how to deal with these feelings or whatever, like, you are not alone. You are not alone. You will never, ever be alone. You'll always have someone there, and we are here. Definitely can leave comments and whatever. I am going to get like the social media part up so that you can leave
Yeah.
comments or message us or whatever. And we have an email, and feel free to seriously, send us anything,
Re-
because we are here for you.
yeah. Reach out to us if you're feeling a certain way and you feel like you're alone. Reach out to us. We're here. We're willing to talk. I'm willing to talk to pretty much anybody. I may not always have the answers, and you may just need somebody just to listen to you. I can do that. But I will tell you, if you start crying, I'm probably going to cry with you because nobody cries alone in my presence. That's just the way I am. Because if somebody starts crying, then I start crying for no other reason than that person's crying.
We're here for anyone, whether to cry with you or to just be the shoulder to cry on. So
Yes, we can be your sounding board.
there you go.
We can try to give you advice. I mean, we're all women in our 30s, so we have a little bit of life experience. I mean, so if you need help with anything, well, I shouldn't say anything, but if you need help with most things, we can probably figure something out.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch us next time.
And see what we're going to talk about.
Because the three fates decide.